this morning's Family Caregiver webinar on the topic of coping with personality and behavior changes. We're very excited that you are here today to learn some helpful information and to talk about the different perspectives and different changes that might come up in your caregiving role with the person that you're caring for. My name is Carrie McClellan. I am the Outreach Manager for Elder Help, and I help to facilitate these family caregiver webinars. I will introduce our speaker to you momentarily. But before I do that, I just wanted to share a brief overview about Elder Help. So our mission is to provide personalized services and information that help seniors remain independent and live with dignity in their own homes. So throughout all of the various programs that we offer through Elder Help, our goal is to help older adults maintain their independence and continue living in their own home for as long as possible. But that doesn't come without support. So a lot of times that does involve family members who might be part of that care team. It also could be outside agencies or volunteers who might be providing support as well. So that's kind of what we strive to do through all of the different programs. And this just gives a list of what we offer through Elder Help. Our information and referral service is available to anybody who is looking for resources. So we're able to help connect people with resources that might be able to support an individual, whether it's a family caregiver calling or whether it's the senior themselves. We offer a variety of check-in call programs to just be that safety net and offer companionship. I will speak about our family caregiver support further in just a moment. Our Seniors A Go-Go program offers transportation to medical related appointments. Our care coordination program helps to connect social workers as well as volunteer services to our clients. And our housing services team helps to navigate the housing challenges in San Diego and connecting people to affordable options as well as potential housemates through our home share program. And through our family caregiver support, we offer our information and referral service. So again, anybody is welcome to call us and access resources through our website or by contacting us directly. We offer webinars like today's so that we can help to educate family members on different aspects of being a caregiver, what that means and how to assume that role and what things might benefit you and making that go a little easier. We also have created online courses that are available at no cost. You can access those on our website, elderhelpofsandiego.org, and on our family caregiver page, you can see our online learning series is available there. And we have a variety of courses that offer assessment tools and education for family members at any stage of that caregiving journey. We also are fortunate to partner with Alzheimer San Diego and Southern Caregiver Resource Center. So collectively, we're all working to reach more family caregivers in our community and beyond. So without further ado, I would very much like the opportunity to introduce today's speaker, Amy Abrams. And she is the Director of Education with Alzheimer San Diego. So I'll share a little bit about her now. Amy has worked in the field of long-term care in San Diego for 20 years in care management, dementia care, and community health education. She holds a Joint Master of Social Work and Master of Public Health from San Diego State University and is a certified positive approach to care dementia trainer. Amy is a longtime member of the Aging Life Care Association and serves on the board of directors for the National Academy of Certified Care Managers. She is a passionate educator and vocal advocate for aging and disabled adults, and currently serves as the Director of Education for Alzheimer San Diego, a local nonprofit organization whose mission is helping families today while finding a cure for tomorrow. And it's always a pleasure to have Amy share her wealth of knowledge with family members who are going through different challenges and changes. She offers a wide variety of tips and solutions, and I'm so excited to have her here today. So Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much, Carrie. What a nice introduction and a nice welcome. And all of us at Alzheimer's San Diego are so grateful to you, our partners at Elder Health, Southern Caregiver Resource Center, everybody that sort of makes this community of support available to our dementia caregivers here in San Diego County. So really, really a pleasure. We have a big group of you here today, and while that pleases us, it also speaks to the enormous challenge of caring for somebody who's living with dementia. So I just want to sort of pause and thank you for making time in your day, or if you're watching a recorded version of this later, thank you for making the time to do that as well. We'll get right to it. Hopefully I've got control of the slides here and can advance.
I will do that in just
Okay. So our topic here today is coping with personality and behavior changes. As you heard, my name is Amy. I'm the Director of Education with Alzheimer's San Diego. We're a local nonprofit that supports people who are living with Alzheimer's disease, other types of related dementias, or just people who don't have a diagnosis, but who are experiencing memory loss or personality and behavior changes related to changes in one's brain, regardless of whether or not there is a diagnosis. So we are here to support people who are experiencing the changes directly, their family caregivers, friends, neighbors, anybody who cares for or cares about somebody who's living with any type of these changes. Please know that we're here to help. At the end of the program here today, I will describe who we are and the array of free programs and services that we offer briefly, and make sure that you know how to reach out. So here we are, and let's go ahead and get started. So this program is based on a curriculum that was originally developed by our sister organization, if you will, up in Los Angeles, Alzheimer's Greater Los Angeles, through a grant that they received from the Administration for Community Living, with input from professionals at Stanford as well as the Alzheimer's Association. So I'm going to be talking through a concept called IDEA here today. This is a strategy for thinking about and developing a response to a change in somebody that when you're noticing a behavior, you're not sure how to respond to it. IDEA is the acronym that we use to help you kind of think through a strategy. And IDEA was developed by Alzheimer's Los Angeles with these partners. I want to make sure I acknowledge that. So a quick look before I get into the content here, what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about dementia very briefly and very generally. First, I'll just say, if you need more information about Alzheimer's disease and the various types of dementia, what causes them and how they're diagnosed, and the medications and treatments that are available, that information is available elsewhere. On the Alzheimer's San Diego website, we have a library of information. I'm going to cover that very briefly here today, just to put into context for you why these personality and behavior changes happen, because they can be sort of mystifying and confusing as symptoms, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the disease itself. I'm really going to spend most of my time here today talking about you. What I want you to notice about this agenda that you see here is that what's not on here is how do we get someone with dementia to stop doing X, Y, or Z, right? That is often when I was teaching classes in person and I could hear your questions out loud. That was the most common thing I would hear when we would offer this program. The person that I care for repeats the same question over and over again. They're engaging in rummaging types of behaviors. They pace, they get agitated, they're hiding things from themselves and then blaming me because they can't find them. How do I make them stop doing that? And what we're really focusing on in this class, I'll bring you back to the title of it. It's coping with personality and behavior changes, right? It's not stopping them. It's not preventing them. We will talk about the things that might precipitate a behavior and what you might be able to do to change the person's environment, to change your strategy, to maybe stop it from happening or reduce its severity. But what we're really focused on is you and what you can do to address the changes. So that usually means handling your own reactions, right? Learning how to be more responsive to what's happening rather than more reactive. This is a wonderful quote from an article that was in a scientific journal many, many years ago now, but it's still so profoundly important. I'll read it out loud here, and it says, if we spent as much time trying to understand behavior as we spend trying to manage or control it, we might discover that what lies behind it is a genuine attempt to communicate. So what I'll be suggesting that you try through the course of this program here this morning is that instead of reacting to a behavior, instead of having the emotional, defensive, angry, impatient responses that absolutely are normal and natural and happen to all of us because we are human beings, right? Being faced with a challenging, unexpected situation, usually, if instead we can take a pause and think about what is it, let go of the words that the person is saying, let go of the action, the movement that the person is taking. So separate the behavior from what it actually means. What is the person trying to communicate? In order to do that, you have to have a clear head, right? I'm going to give you this idea strategy. You're not going to be able to think in a moment of stress, in a moment of surprise. Frankly, let's face it, in a moment of grief. Sometimes when we are faced with sort of a surprising, shocking thing that a person with dementia may say or do, what it does is it forces us to confront our own grief about the changes that we're seeing that they are experiencing as a result of this. That stress makes you less able to sort of think about, now, what would be a helpful response in this situation, right? The stress of that kicks your sort of fight or flight or fight reflexes into action and makes you do something quickly that is not usually the most thoughtful, the most empathetic of responses possible. Imagine each of you that are here today or listening here today can remember a situation maybe that happened recently where your reaction, your response was, you sort of look at it later and think, maybe I didn't quite think that through. Maybe it was not the best possible response. So the most effective strategy we have for this is our breath, right? And I'm not talking new agey hippie kind of stuff, although I have no problem with that. Right? I'm just talking about giving the smarter part of your brain, that's your prefrontal cortex, where the seat of our intelligence, the part of our brain that allows us to not react just instinctively to things, but allows us to think through a thoughtful response. What's really going on here? And what can I say or do that's actually going to be helpful? That's a very complicated part of our brain up here, but it's also a very slow part of our brain, right? Because those are complicated thoughts. So if you take a deep breath, and in fact, if you take 3 deep breaths, that usually takes somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10 seconds. That's what will allow that part of your brain to sort of override the instinctive reaction that's probably not going to help this situation and allows you to think through something better. Right? So join me just for a moment. I need a deep breath too. Just join me in taking one good deep breath. Okay, it has mental effects, it has emotional effects, and certainly it has physical effects, especially if you take 3. But we've only got an hour here today, so I won't walk you through 3 deep breaths. So let's talk for a bit. I'm going to show you a brief video, and hopefully Carrie's running the controls here today, so I hope that the video is going to play for you. I'm going to show you this short video that was created several years ago, but that is still the best description I've seen of why dementia, why Alzheimer's disease, which is one specific type of dementia, why does it cause changes to a person's personality and behavior? So Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia, but every type of dementia causes chemical and structural changes to the brain cells, to the brain tissue, and most specifically to the connections between our brain cells. And it causes us to think differently. It causes us to process information differently, and as it spreads through the different lobes of the brain, it causes us to act differently. So Carrie, if I can get you to play our video. This video is available for free online at aboutalz.org. It's available in multiple languages too. So you can look for this later. You can also share it with others if you find it helpful.
What is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's is a slow, fatal disease of the brain affecting 1 in 10 people over the age of 65. No one is immune. The disease comes on gradually as 2 abnormal protein fragments called plaques and tangles accumulate in the brain and kill brain cells. They start here in the hippocampus, the part of the brain where memories are first formed. Over many years' time, the plaques and tangles slowly destroy the hippocampus, and it becomes harder and harder to form new memories. Simple recollections from a few hours or days ago that the rest of us might take for granted are just not there. After that, more plaques and tangles spread into different regions of the brain, killing cells and compromising function wherever they go. This spreading around is what causes the different stages of Alzheimer's. From the hippocampus, the disease spreads here to the region of the brain where language is processed. When that happens, it gets tougher and tougher to find the right word. Next, the disease creeps toward the front of the brain, where logical thought takes place. Very gradually, a person begins to lose the ability to solve problems, grasp concepts, and make plans. Next, the plaques and tangles invade the part of the brain where emotions are regulated. When this happens, the patient gradually loses control over moods and feelings. After that, the disease moves to where the brain makes sense of things it sees, hears, and smells. In this stage, Alzheimer's wreaks havoc on a person's senses and can spark hallucinations. Eventually, the plaques and tangles erase a person's oldest and most precious memories, which are stored here in the back of the brain. Near the end, the disease compromises a person's balance and coordination. And in the very last stage, it destroys the part of the brain that regulates breathing and the heart. The progression from mild forgetting to death is slow and steady, and takes place over an average of 8 to 10 years. It is relentless and, for now, incurable. Helping your family, friends, and neighbors to better understand Alzheimer's will reduce stigma, improve care, and even help the fight for a cure. Thanks for helping to do your part. Learn more at www.aboutalz.org.
All right, back to you, Amy.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that that worked okay. Thanks for all the technical support there. And for those of you who are watching, just a reminder that that short video is available at aboutalz.org. It is gloomy. It is sad. It is difficult information to take in. My hope, though, in sharing that with you is that what we're doing is building some empathy, right? In those moments when I know it feels like the person that you're caring for is doing this frustrating thing on purpose, right? They're doing it to make you angry. They're doing it to manipulate you in some way. That is not usually the case, right? They are doing that because of a progressive set of changes that are happening in the structures within their brain. That can be hard to see. It can be hard to think about. It can be hard to think about Alzheimer's and other types of dementia as terminal illness, right? But they are. Right? The brain is controlling everything, not just the stuff that's keeping us alive, the way we're talking, the way we're thinking, the way we regulate our emotions, the way we express when we're happy, when we're sad, when we're angry. The brain's making all of that happen. So in those moments when you're losing your patience, and again, I understand why, I hope that this thinking about the biological changes that are happening, because you can't see this stuff from the outside, right? I hope that that will grant you a little bit of patience and empathy in those moments. So, okay. So that's what's happening inside the brain. What's actually happening on the outside, right? That's, like I said, we don't see physical changes in people with dementia until the disease is in its quite late stages. But for the most part, we know somebody's living with dementia because of the way they talk, because of the way that they act. So what might that produce? I've got a list for you here on the screen of some of the most common symptoms that we see in people who are living with dementia. This does not cover everything. These are just sort of the most common of them. Getting lost, we refer to that as wandering. That can happen within one's own home, within a small space. It can also happen out in the community. It can happen on foot. It can happen while you're behind the wheel of a car. It can happen on public transit, right? Getting lost is very common. Most people with dementia will get lost, will wander at some point during the course of their disease. So it is absolutely something we want to be thinking about, preparing for, and protecting the person from to the extent that we can. There may be combative behavior, hitting, spitting, kicking, yelling, right? Just generally being combative. That's not common. Being argumentative, being sort of difficult, and being a little harder to get along with than before is definitely common. Actually becoming physically violent doesn't happen to everyone, but it is something to be aware of, and again, just sort of prepared for. Hopefully today I can give you some sense of how to determine why that might be happening if it is happening, and help you prevent it. Sleep disturbance is very common in people living with dementia, along with all of those other things that were described in that video and that I've been describing. All those other things our brains are regulating. It's also regulating our circadian rhythms, the way we sleep, our sense of whether or not it is daytime or nighttime, the sense of whether or not it's time to be up and doing things, or whether or not it's time for bed and to be resting. That all gets disturbed in people with dementia as the brain chemistry is changing. So sleep problems are very common in people with dementia. This behavior is very common. And of course, sleep problems in one person in a household usually result in sleep problems for everybody in that household, and maybe even for, family, loved ones outside of the household who get late night visits, who get late night phone calls, right, from somebody who is disoriented and confused and having that sleep disturbance. Very, very common. One of the most common symptoms that we see is just a refusal to accept help. This can happen for a variety of reasons. The person may not have, this is one of the catch-22, one of the dilemmas of these diseases is that the person may not have insight into what's changing with them. They may not have a sense that they need your help. So your attempts to be helpful are not met with, welcome and open arms. Thank you so much for helping me with this, right? Usually there's a lot of resistance to that. And that can be for a lot of reasons, but often the refusal is just about, I don't even recognize that anything has changed with me. I don't remember what I'm not remembering. I don't remember that I have trouble remembering. So when you're offering to drive me places, when you're offering to help me with my medication, prepare my meals, come into the shower with me and help me bathe, right? If I don't understand why you're doing that, I'm very likely to refuse your help, right? Either verbally or by physically trying to keep you away, right? Very, very common. Let alone, even if I do have insight, I know things are changing with me, I know I'm struggling, that doesn't mean I want your help, right? So something about, my sort of spirit of independence, my history with you, or maybe something about the way you're trying to provide the care is a barrier, right? Not trusting other people. Unfortunately, feelings of suspicion and paranoia are very common because the person is confused. The person is disoriented. There's a lot of gaps in the person's memory and a lot of gaps in their stories that their brains are making up about what's happening around them. So when things go missing and they can't find them, if they don't remember tucking that thing away for safekeeping, right, their automatic thought is going to be, and it's a logical thought, if you put yourself in their shoes, somebody else took this, right? So it can be very difficult for people with dementia to trust other people, even people they've loved, known, and trusted all their lives, right? Because their brain is presenting them with a confusing set of facts. Repetition, very, very common in people with dementia. Asking the same question over and over again is the most common form of this, but sometimes it's making the same statement over again, telling the same story over again, or going through a repetitive motion, doing the same movement or pacing the same sort of route. But usually we're talking about repeating the same question over and over again. I suspect that many of you that are watching this webinar have dealt with this or are dealing with this right now. And it is a very tiring, very frustrating symptom. And again, I'll reiterate, I don't have the magic formula for making that stop, but hopefully I can help you learn to respond to it a little differently. Seeing and hearing things, this is not particularly common in the Alzheimer's type of dementia, but it is common in other types of dementia. Lewy body dementia, LBD, is a non-Alzheimer's type of dementia that produces a lot of visual hallucinations in people living with that particular type of dementia, or including Alzheimer's disease, other forms of dementia may cause visual or auditory hallucinations later in the disease. But seeing and hearing things, a true hallucination, while not very common, delusions are very common, where I see something, there actually is something there, right? I see that shadow, that shape off in the corner of the room as a person, right, who is frightening to me, whereas what it might actually be is a large plant, a coat rack, right? That's not a true hallucination. There is something there, but my brain is interpreting that a little bit differently. So all of these are just meant to represent for you the most common types of personality changes and behaviors that we see in people living with dementia. But I suspect that many of you have other types of symptoms that you're coping with as well. So just to clarify, this is what we mean when we say behavior. So IDEA, this is that acronym I previewed for you a little while ago. This is our 3-step approach. Again, this was developed by my colleagues at Alzheimer's Los Angeles as a simple to remember. Think of this visual of the light bulb, right? You get an idea when you see a behavior and you're trying to formulate a response to it. IDEA stands for identifying the behavior, exploring what might be going on here, and then making an adjustment. I'll talk about each of these in more detail here in a moment. Let's just take that deep breath and sort of think clearly about behavior, what it is and what it is not. All behavior does mean something. That does not mean you can figure it out. Doesn't mean I could figure it out, right? As a longtime dementia educator and expert, often I see behaviors that I don't understand either. That doesn't mean that it's meaningless, right? All behavior is an attempt to communicate, to convey something, or to alleviate a feeling that the person may be experiencing. It all means something. So we have a duty to try to figure it out. We can't always figure it out, but we should give it a try. So think about all of those behaviors that I just sort of described and walked you through: getting lost, feeling suspicious, making accusations towards someone, refusing help, rummaging through drawers, maybe pacing, asking the same question over and over again. Think about the person that you care for or care about. Think about them for a moment. Think about one of the challenging behaviors that you're faced with on a regular basis, whatever that might be. What might that person actually be trying to say? what does that behavior mean to them? Right? We sort of know what it looks like from the outside. Somebody who is unbuckling their belt, unzipping their pants, dropping their drawers in a public place, right? We know what that looks like from the outside. We have our ideas about what that might mean, but think about them. Think about, when was the last time they used the bathroom, right? Might they have a full bladder? Might they have recently eaten a large meal and their stomach is a little distended and they're uncomfortable? Maybe, are they, if they're living with incontinence, are they having a urinary tract infection and experiencing some discomfort? And they're trying to make themselves a little bit more comfortable, right? It's very easy to look at that behavior and interpret it, for example, as aggressive or sexual in nature, when in fact it might be an attempt to alleviate some pretty basic physical discomfort. So try to separate what you think the behavior looks like, what you think the behavior means. Put yourself in their shoes, put yourself in their brain as best you can, and think about what this behavior means to them. So some possible things you might start by thinking through. Are they feeling sad? Are they angry about something? Are they frightened or frustrated? Again, physical discomfort, often the source of many behaviors that we see in people living with dementia, restlessness or being hungry or thirsty or needing to use the bathroom, for example. Are they uncomfortable? Are they in pain? Is there something medical going on? We'll come back to this topic in a moment. Are they sick? Are they coming down with a cold or a flu? Are they experiencing fever? Do they have physical pain, right? Arthritis, headaches? People with dementia who had chronic conditions before they developed dementia, they still have those chronic conditions, right? But what they are lacking now is the ability to recognize that pain and what it means and how to make themselves feel better. Or maybe they might be lacking the independent function to go into the medicine cabinet and take an Advil, right, to address the arthritis or the headache. So might there be something physical going on, or is what's going on with them causing them to feel frustrated? They're not getting enough stimulation, right? This task is boring. They're tired of seeing the same person all day. They're spending too much time alone or just spending too much time with one other person. Right? This can be kind of hard for us to cope with and accept as a care partner, right? But people need a variety of stimulation and people and activities during their day. So might they be feeling restless, bored, frustrated by a task or by their environment? All behavior means something. What it usually doesn't mean is that they're just trying to sort of poke the bear. Again, I know sometimes it feels, I've been a family caregiver to a person with dementia, and I know the frustration. I know those moments of he is just doing this to get under my skin, to push my buttons. He knows how to push my buttons, right? But behaviors are almost never done on purpose. The person is not trying to annoy you. They're not trying to frustrate you. When they're waking you up in the middle of the night, there's often not an awareness that this is a problem for you, right? A person who's asking the same question and over again is not doing that because they're not listening to you, right? We often confuse the symptoms of dementia with something like selective hearing or selective memory, right? He or she is choosing to not remember the answer, that we've already talked about this. That is very rarely the case. They may be asking the same question over and over again because they don't remember the answer or because they don't remember having asked it in the first place, right? Remember what you saw in that video about the hippocampus, that little region in the middle of the brain that controls our short-term memory. I asked you something an hour ago and you answered me and we had a whole conversation about it. If my hippocampus is damaged, I'm very unlikely to remember not only the outcome of that conversation, but to even remember that I've already asked you. So take that deep breath. Remember that they are not doing this on purpose. A note about, a sudden change in a person's behavior. To that topic that I brought up briefly about medical issues. So if you're noticing a very sudden onset of dramatically different behavior, the person was able to talk to you yesterday pretty clearly, pretty conversationally skilled, and today they can barely utter a few words. They were able to participate in a social activity or an enjoyed recreational activity, gardening, knitting, watching television, responding to their favorite musical program. And today, that same activity, they're not able to follow along. They can't enjoy it. They won't sit still. If there's a really sudden change in the person's behavior, this is not the normal progression of the symptoms of Alzheimer's or another type of dementia. We don't usually see a very dramatic kind of overnight loss of function or really dramatic overnight change in a person's personality. When you see that, it's important that you connect with their doctor as soon as possible, their healthcare provider, whoever that might be, to get an evaluation, because this usually means that something medical is going on. If they're coming down with a cold, a flu, another type of illness, if they have an infection, urinary tract infection, maybe an early pneumonia is beginning to form, if they are experiencing a change in their mental health status, depression, anxiety, right? They could of course be having a stroke, right? They're still living in a fully human body with all sorts of things that might go wrong. We don't want to chalk up every change that we see to, well, this person has dementia, right? So when you're noticing a sudden change, please talk with their healthcare provider as soon as possible to request an evaluation. So this might be a dramatic change in their memory or a dramatic change in their mood, more confusion, more agitation, being angry, hitting, yelling, generally being combative. Again, if that's new for them. Suddenly wetting the bed when they didn't have this problem before, having more accidents, not making it to the bathroom in time. That often is an indication of a urinary tract infection or some other type of medical issue that might be going on. Again, I'm talking only when it's a sudden onset. And then of course, if the person is having a fever, if they're experiencing seizure or some other obvious pain or medical condition, then surely we don't want to chalk those things up to dementia. I want to talk to their healthcare provider as soon as possible. So here's the idea approach in some detail: identifying the behavior, exploring its meaning or its underlying cause, and then making some adjustments. So step one, identifying the behavior. How would you describe this behavior? This seems like a very simple thing to do, describe the behavior. But in fact, what we usually do when we're telling somebody about what a person with dementia does, we're doing that with lots of emotion and lots of judgment, because of course we know that person and we know how they used to act, right? So I had a family member who had dementia and was a very hardworking, hard driving, industrious kind of a person. And as his dementia symptoms, as he changed, as his symptoms progressed and his brain was changing, he became much more, he started to take naps, right? He started to spend hours and hours just kind of pulling weeds in the driveway, in the front yard. To anybody else that didn't know him, right? You came to my house and saw him weeding in the driveway for hours and hours. What would you think? Well, how nice, right? He's outside, he's getting fresh air, he's doing something productive and something helpful. How did I describe that? He never goes to work anymore, right? He used to do all the power washing of all the windows. He used to wash all the cars. He used to run a business, and he can't do anything anymore. All he does is pull those darn weeds in the driveway, right? How would I describe that behavior? I layered it on with all sorts of history and my personal emotions about what he was doing. Somebody else looking at that from the outside would describe it very differently. So how do other people see this behavior? So kind of check yourself is really what I'm talking about. Does this behavior bother you? Does it bother them? And if it is bothering you, is that for a very real reason? Right? If that family member had arthritis or stenosis in his back, and bending over and pulling weeds was going to cause major pain, sleep problems, and land him in the hospital, then absolutely that's a real problem. Is it really a problem just because I don't like it, right? Because it's not who I know him to be? That's not really a problem. So sort of describe the behavior in as objective terms as you can. Think about what this person is doing right now and what it would look like from the outside to someone who doesn't know them. That's where we start in identifying the behavior. Now, think about why. Why might this be happening? So explore is the E in our idea. What is the meaning to that purpose? What are they trying to say or to do through this behavior? Think back to this person who's pulling weeds in the driveway all day. What did that mean to them? Right? To me, it meant, you know, a big loss, right? Not being able to do anything else. And so that's what they were doing. To them, it meant fresh air, exercise, you know, being in touch with nature. It meant taking care of the home, right? Being productive, doing something useful. That's what the behavior meant to them, right? Think about that person who's unzipping their pants in public that I was talking about. What is the meaning of that behavior to them, right? Someone who is asking the same question over and over again. What time are we going to be leaving? What time do I need to be ready? What time is our appointment? Time is an area of a lot of concern and anxiety for a lot of us, but especially for people who are living with dementia. Someone who's asking that question over and over again, what does that mean to them? Right? Are they really concerned because they're not sure they have enough time to get there? Are they asking that question because they feel a little bit, you know, things are kind of out of my control? I'm no longer driving, so I don't get to decide when we are going to leave the house. Are we going to make it in time? Right? I might be asking that question over and over again because I'm attempting to exert some control over my situation. I have a sense that things going on around me are no longer fully within my own control. So think again about the person that you care for or that you care about. Think about a behavior that you're currently dealing with and think what it might mean to them. What might they be trying to say or trying to accomplish through that behavior? And then finally, making the adjustment. And again, I'm sorry to report the news that this is really about you. The adjustment that you're going to make might be to something in their environment. It might be to a change, you know, an adjustment to the routines, the time of day that you try to help somebody take their medication and they always refuse you, or support them in, you know, taking a daily shower. Doesn't have to be daily, but right, whatever the schedule might be, it might be about making some of those kinds of practical adjustments. Thinking about, you know, I'm asking this person to get undressed and step into a shower in a cold bathroom at a time of day when they are not at their best, right? Because it works best for me to get the shower done or the bath done with early in the day. Right? But might it be better to do this later when the bathroom's a little warmer? When they've warmed up after they've had a meal, they're feeling a little more easygoing. They generally do better a little later in the morning than first thing, right? I might be able to make some of those adjustments to their environment, to their routine, to this task that we're trying to accomplish together. But for the most part, the major adjustment is going to be about you, right? And how you think about what the person is doing, whether or not you're breathing through it, right? And how you're communicating with them. We have this instinctive impulse to defend ourselves, to, you know, we got to get things done. We are busy people, and we are as care partners, and we try to kind of run through the tasks of the day and get things done. And we kind of use that as a defense or as an explanation for why we've got to rush through these tasks with the person, right? Maybe what I need to do, take a few to-do things off my list, try to do a little bit less, right? Adjust my expectations of what we can accomplish in a day or in a morning, right? Make an adjustment, give myself more time, sort of slow this whole situation down and change the way I'm coming at this problem. right? Am I expressing through my facial expressions, through my tone of voice, through the pace at which I'm talking, the sound of my voice, but also the words that I'm saying? Am I communicating, I'm in a hurry, we've got to get this done, right? Think about the way you're communicating and you're reacting to this person's behavior and how you might be contributing to the problem. Big idea there. So let's put idea to work. We're going to watch a short video. This is a video that is in 2 parts, so we're going to watch it straight through. This video was recorded by our friends at UCLA's Dementia Caregiving. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the organization. It'll come on screen here in a moment. Through UCLA, they've developed this wonderful library of short videos that what they do is they start by showing you a scenario, a person who's living with dementia and a care partner, usually a family member, going through a challenging problem, right? So they have this whole library of different topics. They show you a typical kind of interaction that a person with dementia and their care partner might have. And then there's a UCLA faculty who will kind of talk through what's going on and then show you another role play of how you might do that differently. It's really wonderful. So I'm going to show you one of them just to give you a taste of it. As you're watching this video, what I want you to do is think about, put idea in your mind, right? Identify what's happening. What do you see happening? Again, try to look at it as an objective third person, which you are. What does this mean to them? Explore the meaning of the behavior. What does it mean to the person living with dementia? If you were the care partner in this situation, and be honest with yourself, right? What do you think you would have done? How do you think you would have responded? So again, I'll ask Carrie to help me out with playing this video. This one is on the topic of agitation and anxiety. It's a demonstration of a mother and daughter getting into a very typical power struggle that we see often happening between people with dementia and their care partners. So here is the address, the URL where you can find this video and many others. It's uclahealth.org/dementia/caregiver/education/videos. And there you'll see this whole library of topics. So we're going to watch the agitation and anxiety video now. Think about those questions, keep idea in mind as we go through it, and then we will reconvene in a moment.
My mom's become resistant to my help, and she's now hard to handle. She hasn't been able to manage her basic day-to-day needs without my help, but she believes she doesn't have any problems and doesn't need help. She's easily agitated and gets upset when I try to get her dressed. I'm just frustrated, and I don't know what to do. Mom, where are you? Mom, you're gonna be late for your doctor's appointment. Are you seriously planning on wearing that? It's 80 degrees outside, Mom. Okay, look, let's wear this instead. We don't have time, okay? Let's hurry. Mom, oh, God, what is wrong with you?
Oh, leave me alone. I can do it.
No, Mom, let me, gosh.
Leave me alone.
Help you. I can help you, Mom.
I don't need your help. God, leave me alone. Get out.
Just do this to me.
Agitation and anxiety can manifest as difficulty sitting still, pacing, fidgeting, acting irritable, afraid, nervous, worried, or just being resistive to help from others. The behaviors are often triggered by a feeling of loss of control, misperceiving situations or actions as threats, unmet needs, inability to communicate clearly, and frustration with tasks or interactions with family and caregivers. Changes in a usual routine can also cause agitation and anxiety. People with dementia, for example, may have impaired insight towards their own cognition and ability level due to their disease. For this reason, they have a hard time understanding their limitations about what they can and cannot do. They may not realize that they need help, as they do not see themselves as having problems. This can lead to agitation when someone tries to help them. How one approaches a person with dementia makes a difference. If you feel angry, impatient, or frustrated, or if you rush someone or seem irritable, they can sense your mood and react with apprehension, resistance, anxiety, and agitation. Agitation can then escalate to inappropriate behaviors, such as hitting or biting. It is very important to remember that persons with dementia react and respond to how a caregiver approaches them. How you speak to them is key.
Good morning, Mom. How you feeling?
I'm all right.
Okay, what would you like to wear today? You look good in the green or the blue? Which color do you want to try today?
I don't need your help. I can do it myself.
Okay. I'm sorry that I made you feel that way, okay? You're doing very, very well, and I'm just here to help in case you need me. I know you can do it yourself very well. I love you so much, and I just want to be here when you need me. Can I stay with you? We can do this together? Okay, good. So we are going to go to the doctor's, and then we can go get some ice cream. How does that sound?
Oh, that sounds good.
Okay, let's get you dressed, Mom. Let's lose this. We want you to be comfortable after all. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is gonna look good. Perfect.
Here are a few tips on how to respond to agitation and anxiety. Allow ample time to complete tasks and don't rush your loved one. Use a gentle tone of voice, but do not be condescending. Try to keep your body language positive and use calming gestures and a gentle touch. Don't be demanding or bark orders at your loved one. Instead, provide reassurance. Speak in calming tones and phrases. Let the individual know you're there for support. Try to schedule activities around your loved one's natural routines. For instance, if your loved one is a late riser, plan doctor's appointments for the afternoon. Simplify the environment to reduce frustration or confusion. For example, thin out the closet so that it is easier for your loved one to see inside. Have fewer clothing options to choose from, and clothes that are easy to put on.
So while that was showing a very specific example, right, getting the struggle over getting dressed, hopefully you can see the ways that you could apply these same strategies to many different types of challenging behaviors that the person that you're caring for might exhibit. There's one thing I really notice whenever I watch these two videos in short succession like that, and that is the difference in the way the daughter just simply entered the room. Right? Actually, the way she entered and exited. In the first video, if you caught it, she was actually yelling at her mom that they were late before she even walked in the room. You could hear her before the door opens. She's already mad. She's already, we're doing this again, right? She walked into that room ready for a fight, ready for a struggle. Whereas in the second one, right, you actually could hear it. If you're listening for it, you could hear her take a deep breath and, sort of connect with her mom and be present with her, not coming in ready for a fight, just, okay, right, kind of a little more in control of herself. She said as she walked out, in the first video, in her frustration, throwing up her arms. Why do you always do this to me? Right? She is personalizing her mother's behavior in this instance, right? Whereas, again, if we apply idea to this situation and think about what this means, right? It's not that the mother wanted to wear a fur vest on an 80-degree day because she wanted to be annoying to her daughter. She was wanting to create a struggle, right? Her perception of things is a bit skewed because of disease in her brain, and she wants to feel in control of her own day, of what's going to happen there in that morning, right? So one of the things I noticed that the daughter does very cleverly in the second video that I want to point out to you, she's still helping, right? She's not letting mom just decide to wear whatever she wants, although that might be the right strategy, right? Let her put on all those layers and then slowly peel them off as you go. That might be how you cope with this situation. But what she chose to do there, she did decide, I'm still going to help mom get dressed here. But as she talked to her, as she reassured her, I'm sorry, I messed that up. I didn't mean to communicate to you that you can't do this. As she was doing that to her, we call that validating her, right? Reassuring her and making her feel better about the situation. She was cleverly unbuttoning her shirt, right? She was still helping. She just wasn't pointing out that she was helping. Here, let me do this, right? You're being too slow. You're doing this wrong. You've messed this up, right? By communicating that, you are shutting the person down and reminding them of all of their losses and all of the things that they can't do anymore. In that second scenario, she slowed it all down and she reassured her mom, you get to be in charge here, right? The reality is the daughter was in charge. She was helping her decide what to wear. She was going to get her to that doctor's appointment, but she went about it in a totally different way. So again, I hope you can see those key differences there. I hope that you will consider visiting that website. It's a wonderful resource with videos on a lot of different caregiving topics specific to managing challenging behaviors at bath time, wandering, taking medications, lots of different types of resistance that you can apply to lots of different behavioral scenarios. Let's see if I can. Okay, so there's idea in summary: identify, explore, and then make your adjustment. So I encourage you to think about a challenging behavior that you're currently met with on a regular basis and put it to work for yourself. Do some thinking about what's really going on there. Explain the behavior in objective terms, what might be causing it, and what might you be able to do about it. We'll spend some time here in a moment addressing some questions, and if I can give you any ideas or suggestions about scenarios happening in your life, I will be happy to try my best to do so. But before we do that, I want to encourage you, the care partner, to have a safety net, right? Breathing deeply is important, but also, using idea, coming up with thoughtful, empathetic patient responses, all of that matters. But there are going to be days that you can't handle the situation. There's some kind of an emergency going on. There's something going on in your life, and you have to step away and you need some backup, right? Or if you hear that question asked one more time, right? You're gonna flip your lid. Know when you're at that point and have some backup. You need a safety net in the same way that we focus effort and energy and we put support around people who are living with dementia. You need to do that for yourself too. So think about, who could you call if you had an emergency and needed to step away from the care of the person that you care for? Who could you call in on a moment's notice for assistance? Are you getting regular breaks, right? Vacations are wonderful, and we do encourage vacations, but that's not always feasible. But a daily break, right? A few minutes, a few hours, we call this respite, right? Getting a break, getting a few moments to rest, clear your head, recharge, so that you can come back to those personality changes. You can come back to those behaviors again with a little more energy and a little more ability to be patient and empathetic. Are you getting regular breaks? Have you told people in your life about what's going on with you? This is very difficult for a lot of people there's a lot of stigma around Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia, memory changes in thinking. It's very important that we try to overcome the shame, the embarrassment, the fear that exists around these things. These are medical conditions that happen to many of us, right? That if someone's life hasn't yet been affected by dementia, it's really just a matter of time, right? Statistically speaking, talk to people about what's going on in your life. They can't help you if they don't know what's happening in your life, in your family, in your neighborhood, right? So think about what additional support you might need. And if you are in need of resources for any of these things, you don't have someone to call for backup in an emergency. You don't have the opportunity to take a 10-minute walk every day to get a little bit of break, a little bit of exercise and fresh air. If this doesn't feel possible to you, please reach out to us at Alzheimer's San Diego. We can help connect you to these resources. And above all else, remember, the first thing I taught, still the most important. When you are overwhelmed, take that deep breath, right? You're going to get through this moment, right? Whatever's happening, they're not doing it on purpose. They're doing it because of changes that are happening in their brain, chemical changes, structural changes, brain cell death, right? They're not doing these things on purpose. They're doing it because they have an illness. And by you taking a deep breath and thinking through that idea strategy, let's think about what's happening here, identify the problem, explore what it might mean, and make an adjustment, even if it's just a little bit of an adjustment to my own frame of mind, right? It can make a world of difference. So this is us at Alzheimer's San Diego. We are here to provide you with information and resources and support. Think about that safety net that I was talking about. If you don't have an adequate safety net, we're here to help you. You can talk with one of our dementia experts anytime. All of our services are provided at absolutely no cost. So we have a team of clinical care coaches who can talk with you about your specific situation, give you some suggestions and some ideas, point you toward resources for in-home help, for talking with your own support network about how to get them involved to provide more help, adult day programs, residential care, lots of terrific community resources here in San Diego that we can point you toward. We can connect you with a support group, lots of classes offered through Alzheimer's San Diego on a variety of topics, many of which are focused on caregivers, but there's a whole host of planning and brain health topics and lots of information about Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia, social activities, our respite program, it's called All's Companions, where we match trained volunteers with a person who's living with dementia to give their care partner a little bit of a break. We have our Vitals, Volunteers in Touch, telephone check-in calls, just sort of social check-in calls for people who have dementia and live alone. A whole host of resources, support, again, all free, services provided in multiple languages. So please reach out, let us know how we can help you. So Carrie, can I ask you to come back and let me know if there are any questions that we can address?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Amy, for all of that information. Obviously there are so many valuable points that you made, and I definitely learned some things myself. So thank you for that. I was looking at the questions, and we do have some. So the first is this person's father. Why is it not showing up all the way? Oh no. This person's father has Alzheimer's and has for the past 10 years. Her mother is the primary caregiver. And the father is showing, I'm going from memory because for some reason it's not coming up, so I apologize.
Oh, sure.
But there it is. He's escalating in his fright at sundown time, where he's saying, where is his home? We need to get there. But in fact, he's been home all day and night, and they assure him that it isn't his home. Another point of that is that they have followed up with his primary care physician, and they have increased his medication, Seroquel, for when he does experience some of those additional symptoms, but I'm looking for suggestions there.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that scenario. It sounds really challenging, first of all, for your mother, but also for your father, right? So this is a symptom, this is a behavior that we call sundowning. I don't know if you've heard that term. I didn't mention it here today, but it is pretty common in the middle stages of dementia. For a lot of people, we'll see this very behavior in the hours just before and during and just after sundown, right? So that changes during the course of a calendar year. The person experiences an increase in agitation, confusion, disorientation. Sundowning is very common, but for most people, it only happens it's like a phase that a lot of people with dementia will go through. And hopefully that provides some comfort. This is likely to wane over time and get better. So hopefully in the big picture, that helps provide some reassurance. But of course, in the moment, that's no help at all. So sundowning, we don't exactly know why it happens, but there are many sort of theories and many different strategies we try to address it. One is the changing light of the day, right? The air, the light outside, the space in a home looks very different this time of year, let's say at 6 p.m. than it did at noon, right? And in that time, the room was kind of light. It looked a certain way most of the day. Things stay pretty stable. And then at sundown, there's new shadows, there's new contrast. People look different. Like I assure you, I look the circles under my eyes, everything's a little sort of darker. I look a lot more tired at night. Men might, get a little bit of, what do they call that? The 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock shadow, right? People look different in the evening because they're tired, things have changed, the room looks different, so colors look different. But also the person who's living with dementia is tired, right? They may be hungry, they might be having blood sugar irregularities, or just plain be fatigued. So by sundown, there's a lot going on for that person, right? In terms of their brain chemistry, their fatigue, their caregivers are tired. And they've maybe been up all night and fatigued by sundown too. They're hungry. And there's all of this sort of changing light and new shadows and contrast that causes the person to get confused about where they are. So not uncommon at all to hear somebody saying, I need to go home. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I gotta get home. That's a very, very common behavior in people who are sundowning. No amount of reassuring the person that they are home, I'm sorry to tell you, is going to help, right? What you need to adjust is not the environment. You can't prove to them that they live there, right? They're taking in information and interpreting it. You could tell me all day long, right, that the sky is green, but I know it's blue. Right? We could argue all day long about that color. You can't really convince a person who's sundowning, who's confused and disoriented, that they are home or they don't have to catch that train to work or whatever the thing might be. Instead, what you want to do is, again, put idea to work here. Think about what that behavior means to them. Somebody that's pacing around saying, I've got to go home, I've got to get out of here. What does that behavior actually mean to them? They don't feel at home. They don't feel comfortable. They're disoriented. Wherever they think they are, it isn't home. So what can you adjust? Instead of trying to convince them that they're home, reassure them that it's okay that they feel that way. I know you do, right? Your home is beautiful. That garden, oh my gosh, you put in so much work and your roses are amazing, right? Reassuring them that it's okay that they want to go home. It's okay that they feel this way. We're going to get there. We're going to get there soon, right? Depends on the person, right? And where they are and, how long, what particular response might be helpful is very individual and specific, but not arguing with the person and not denying them their right to have that feeling, right? Is really what we're after. I know you want to get home. I get that. I would too, if I was you, right? A simple reaction, a simple response like that is a lot more helpful than any amount of, evidence to evidence that they are in fact home, that you might want to sort of, you might be inclined to present them with a good solid case, and it's sort of wasted energy.
Very good. Thank you, Amy. We did have a question about the recording of this webinar, and yes, you will receive a copy of the recording afterwards. So you will be on the lookout for an email about that. The next question is coming in about hallucinations. So if the person is getting messages on the wall that they need to go get a prescription.
Okay, well, that hallucinations, true hallucinations like that are really difficult for us to deal with as care partners because you don't see it, right? So you can't react to it or sort of join them in their reality for that moment because you're not seeing the same thing that they're seeing or hearing. So I would suggest, right, if the nature of the hallucination is not disturbing to the person, you might not need to do anything about it, right? Ask some questions. Try to get at what they are seeing or hearing or feeling, right? They might be smelling or sensing something as well. Ask them some questions to try to understand it because you can't see it or hear it. Don't tell them that you can't see it or hear it. Just ask them some questions about, what does it look like? What color is it in? Try to get at, if they think they need to go pick up some prescriptions, right? Then you can just respond to that instead of getting into, and there's nothing on this wall, right? Pretending to scrub it and get the message off, that's not going to do you any good because you don't know what they're looking at. You don't know what they're seeing, right? So instead, what an interesting way that the pharmacy has reminded us about that. Let's put that on our to-do list for tomorrow. Right, saying something that just doesn't argue with them, it joins them in their reality, and it gets at the meaning of the behavior to them. Right, there's who knows what, the brain is truly mysterious, and who knows what is causing that particular hallucination to take place. But if it isn't scary to them, right, then what you can do is just kind of join them in it, momentarily, just enough to kind of reassure them, okay, message received, we'll go get that prescription tomorrow, right? Whatever it might be. If you sense that the hallucination is scary to them, then what you want to do is help them feel safe. You know what? That does seem a little threatening. Tell you what, I'm going to call the neighbor, ask them to come in and figure out what's going on there. Why don't you and I go for a walk and just kind of get away from this for a while, right? Again, not arguing with them that it's not there, just saying, yeah, I see why that makes you uncomfortable. I see why that would scare you. Let's do something about it. Let's get away.
Very good. Thank you. The next question is, what do you do when you're feeling overwhelmed when one parent has passed away and you're still grieving?
Oh gosh. Well, I am with you on that particular front. I'm feeling your pain. I'm feeling your grief. When you are feeling overwhelmed, acknowledge it. Let yourself feel that way. Take that deep breath. Let yourself feel it. Think about the things what are you needing, right? What is your grief? What is your overwhelm keeping you from doing or receiving in your life, right? And reach out to somebody. Doesn't matter who it is, if it's a friend, if it's a family member, if it's us, if it's someone at Elder Help, right? Reach out to somebody and say, I'm really struggling. Even if you don't know, if you know what you need, ask for it, right? If you don't know what you need, talk to somebody. There are free bereavement support groups. There are free through Alzheimer San Diego, as well as through many of the local hospices. It does not matter if you didn't use hospice. Bereavement support is available for free out in the community. So reach out, ask somebody, tell somebody how you're feeling. Don't keep it to yourself. It doesn't work. Talk to people about how you're feeling, and know that there are resources and support out there for you, and they're free and they're welcoming. You don't have to use them forever, right? But check them out, please.
Very good. We have a few more questions. I know we're coming to the end of our time. I'm just going to advance the slides to the end, and then
Sure.
if you're okay, Amy, we'll stick on for a couple more minutes
Sure.
to answer a couple more questions. Great. So stay tuned for additional webinars that will be coming through from Elder Help. So I will be adding to our calendar. So if you would like to have an upcoming email so that you get notified of all of the webinars that will be in the future, you're welcome to email me. You'll have all of my contact information when I send the follow-up as well. If you have any general inquiries, or if you are looking for resources, of course, Alzheimer's San Diego is a fantastic resource, and we refer to their organization as well. You're also welcome to contact Elder Help, and we can try to point you in the right direction. If you wanted to check out our website, you have that there, and I will leave it on that slide for just a couple of minutes while we answer. I think we have just a couple more questions that came in, so I do want to make sure we we answer those. But if you do have to jump off, thank you so much for staying with us today and learning more about how you can support your loved one in that journey. Hopefully those tips and all of the information shared will come in handy for you. For this next question, so this person's mom lives in a memory care community, and the mom is calling constantly. It sounds like she is calling until she answers, and she's often busy, and so she's getting frustrated when she can't take the phone call. And it happened even today when she was trying to log on for the webinar. So just any suggestions for helping with this behavior?
Yes, and again, another behavior I can really relate to. This is very tiring. This is very frustrating. I would say first start with, think back to that idea, right? You've identified the behavior. What does it mean to her, right? To make that call. Is it about you? Is it about connecting with somebody, right? Just human interaction? Is it about reminiscing? Is it about talking? Right? Some of us, myself included, are very verbal people, and we need people to talk to every day. Right? I would say explore what the meaning of those phone calls might be. Is she forgetting that she's already spoken with you today, or just yesterday, or whatever it might be, and she's just checking in on you? She's worried about you. Right? Think about all of those possible meanings, and then I would say work with the memory care community to address that. There might be something that they can do to redirect her behavior, right? When she's at the times of day, if you can identify the time of day that she tends to call, or something that sort of precipitates that, or a feeling she might be having, is there something that their staff, can do to engage her in another activity before the phone calls start, right? To get her connected to a social activity that's happening, get her connected to an outing, going for a walk, right? Something that might give her an outlet for that thing that she's trying to achieve through those phone calls, right? Maybe it's as simple as she wants to engage and she wants to think about her family that she loves so much, right? So they sit down with a photo album and ask her questions about her family. Don't hesitate. Use the staff and the activities director, if there is one at the community, as a resource to you to help you kind of problem solve around this. But there's probably got to be a personal solution to this problem, right? That is specific to her and what those phone calls mean to her. There's no kind of universal thing that would work in any situation.
Those are great suggestions. So the next question is regarding this person. She said that her husband is difficult to get up in the morning. It can take over an hour sometimes. Yesterday, for instance, he got angry, so she left him, and he got up at 4 o'clock. Do you have any suggestions for that situation?
Yes. Well, again, I'd go back to why that might be happening. Is he not sleeping well at night, and so he's exceptionally fatigued in the morning? Is there something during the routines of the day that you could do to keep him more active, more engaged during the day? Getting a little more sunlight, for example, might really help kind of reset the circadian rhythm. Getting more social interaction, more physical movement, or intellectual engagement during the day might help him sleep better at night, and then he's got a little more energy for the morning wake up. So I'd start there. Is there something about the sleep routine that you could address? If not, I would consider also the approach, right? Thinking about, what does it mean to him to say to you, no, get out of here, I'm going to lay in bed until 4 o'clock, right? What is he trying to communicate or control about his situation? And what could you adjust about your approach trying to get him out of bed that might be different? Right? If he's sensing that, this person is nagging me to get up and do stuff that I don't want to do, right? If you can get at that meaning, that's why he's staying in bed. It's not because he's exhausted. It's because he's just trying to sort of exert some control over me and to get me to stop telling him what to do. Then that's a clue to you, right? To change something about what you're saying, how you're asking, how you're making that physical approach, right? Because sometimes it's just a matter of we we walk in and kind of need to get the day started because there's a lot that needs to be done, right? And we're kind of in a hurry and we're impatient. And if he's stealing that from you first thing in the morning, right? I'd be that way too. Just kind of shut down, like, nope, I'm not doing any of this. Whereas if your approach is sort of slowed down, patient, right? Letting him feel like he's in charge of his morning or his day, even if he's not, right? You've got you've got some things that need to get done. But if you're not conveying that, right? If you're just sort of coming at it patiently, slowly, empathetically, I know mornings are the worst. I feel it too. I was really sleepy this morning and I had a really hard time getting out of bed too, right? Not denying him that experience and letting him, sort of feel as in control as he can. You might be more successful.
Very good. And we have a handful of other questions, but in the essence of time, I will follow up on those specific questions afterward. There is one, though, that came up a couple of times, so I think we'll end with that one.
Okay.
And that's about individuals who are having or doing disturbing things or disturbing behavior, like maybe a man who's patting women's bottoms as they go by, or how do you handle those situations? And that came up a couple of times. So we'll end with that question. And if you didn't get your question answered, I will follow up and talk to Amy about the best way to approach all of those. So you will get your answers.
Great, thank you. And please know, if you didn't get a question answered here today, Carrie will be following up. You also can just call the Alzheimer's San Diego office directly anytime. Our services are open to anybody, so don't ever hesitate to do that. But yes, this question is the topic. What we call that is disinhibition, right? So I was talking in some earlier examples about maybe unbuckling one's pants and dropping drawers in public. That may look inappropriate. It may look sexual, when in fact it might not be. Disinhibition, again, it has its own meanings, and it always means something different to the person. But what I want to remind you, go back to that video that we watched and the things that are changing in the person's brain. This part of our brain, our frontal lobe, is sort of the seat of our decision making, our executive function. It's the part of our brain that tells us whether or not to do or say that thing that we're thinking about doing, right? So you think that somebody just looks terrible today. Do you say it out loud? Not usually, right? Because there's not usually anything helpful to be gained by telling somebody, boy, you look awful. You need to take a vacation and get some get some sunshine, get some rest, right? We have kind of a governor in our brain that tells us not to do that. A person with dementia, there's damage in that part of their brain. So they think of something, they're going to act on the impulse. They're going to act on the emotion. They think somebody's attractive. They think somebody's not attractive, right? They're just going to, there's less kind of filter working there, and they're going to say and do things much more impulsively than they did before. So it's not everybody does this, but it's very, very common in people with dementia. We don't want somebody, grabbing people, hitting people, harming people, but it is actually very helpful to explain to people, I'm very sorry, right? Let me just explain what's going on here, right? If you're in a restaurant and somebody's being very mean to their server, very impatient, saying rude things, right? Slipping them. We have these little cards at the Alzheimer's San Diego office that we call companion cards. It's just a simple little business card. You can slip it to somebody and quietly, silently, in fact, explain to them, the person that I'm with is living with dementia. Thank you for your patience, and please, forgive or pardon any sort of unexpected or uncomfortable behavior, right? And that doesn't excuse and make it okay for people to, to grab and violate other people, but getting some understanding and some patience from other people does go a long way. So I'd say if it is a behavior that is harmful to other people, and sometimes it is, engage in that idea thinking, right? Identify what they're doing and think about why they might be doing it, right? Are they in need of more social interaction? Are they in need of more stimulation, right, of some kind? Explore that and think about ways, maybe getting a weekly or monthly massage, or just someone holding their hand and applying lotion, right, every day. They're in need of more touch, right? What might that behavior mean to them? Is there some other thing you can do, an adjustment that you can make that will help to meet that need?
Great suggestions, as always. Well, thank you so much, Amy. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today for the webinar. We will be following up with all of the information and resources and the recording as well. So you will have that and can share it with anybody that would be interested as well that maybe wasn't able to make it today. So thank you again. And we hope that you all are staying safe and healthy, and give yourself the gift of patience for sure.
Yes, for sure. Keep breathing, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you for having us, Carrie. We really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.